Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Maddie and I'm so excited that you are here. Today we are doing something very exciting. We are continuing another Brandon Sanderson series. This is the first book in the Wax and Wayne series by him. I've talked about the Mistborn series on my channel a gazillion times, but this is sort of a continuation of the Mistborn series, but in its own little 4-book series. I ordered this one last week and it finally came in, and so I am so excited to start it. I've gotten so many requests from you guys to keep reading Brandon Sanderson books, and I'm obsessed with him. I'm currently on like a Brandon Sanderson kick right now, so I'm really excited to read this series. This is the first book in the Wax and Wayne series. It's called The Alloy of Law. There are 4 books. This is the shortest. It's only around 240 pages, so I should be able to get through it pretty quick. I'm gonna read the back of the book really quick so y'all can kind of understand what's going on. It says, 300 years after the events of the Mistborn trilogy, Kelsier and Vin have passed into the realm of history and myth, and the world of Scadrial is on the verge of modernity. Why can't I say this word? It's modern with I-T-Y. I'm not dumb. Sometimes my brain doesn't work. Anyway, Scadrial is basically super modern is the point of what that's saying. In the frontier lands known as the Roughs, the old magics are a crucial tool for those who establish order and justice. One such is Waxilium Ladrian, a rare twinborn who can push on metals with his allomancy and use feruchemy to become lighter or heavier at will. You have to read the Mistborn series to understand what that means, or you can watch some of my old videos. I kind of talk about it. After 20 years in the Roughs, tragedy has driven Wax back to the metropolis of Elendel. Now he must reluctantly put away his guns and assume the duties of the head of a noble house. But when a gang of allomancers turns to train robbery and kidnapping, Wax will soon learn that the mansions and elegant tree-lined streets of the city can be more dangerous than the dusty plains of the Roughs. Anyways, so yeah, this is a continuation of the Mistborn trilogy, and it has a very similar magic system to the Mistborn trilogy, so you absolutely have to read that first. You cannot just jump into this. You will have no idea what's going on. But yeah, so that's a short little summary of this book. I'm gonna go ahead and jump in and start reading. I'm just really excited to start reading it, so let's go ahead and get started. Hello everyone. Since I am all about consistency on my channel, I filmed those clips and then I went to class and I went to rehearsal and I went to a fundraising thing and then I hung out with my friends. So I am back to talk about what we have learned so far from The Alloy of Law. Anyway, so starting out, I'm currently on the prologue and we have learned so far that this is the impression I'm getting, but the world that we once knew from the Mistborn series is now much more modern, and our main character Wax is a fan of guns. They are basically his weapon of choice, which was never a thing in the original Mistborn series. We have also learned that he is not a Mistborn like our main character from the original trilogy. He is actually only able to use one allomantic power and burn one sort of metal, which is steel. Burning that steel gives him the ability to push on metals and move himself by doing so. We have also learned that the city he lives in is called Elendel, and one of the original characters from the Mistborn trilogy, his name was Elend, so I'm assuming that's what it is named after, which is so cool to me. His metal of choice is the bullet casings that he uses from his guns, so he's able to push off of them and move himself by doing so. And then also, obviously, guns are his weapon of choice, so that's how he protects himself, and his job is basically to protect his city. Just had to empty my memory card, but we should be good now. Anyways, we also learned that Wax has a wife and her name is Lessie, and she works with him to go on certain missions and basically protect the civilians from people like murderers, stuff like that. Okay, correction, they live in a place called the Roughs, and their job is basically to protect it. The job they're currently on is to arrest a murderer named Tan and bring him in. So they are currently looking for him in a small, basically desolate town in the Roughs. At the end of the prologue, unfortunately, Lessie dies. So pretty much all we've learned so far is what I've said before, and that's about it for the prologue. I'm currently now on part 1, which is about page 15, so I'm gonna keep going, but I just wanted to give y'all a little mini update on the prologue and what we have learned so far about Wax and where where he comes from and things like that. So I'm sad that Leslie died because I actually really enjoyed her dialogue and her personality from basically the 2 pages we got of her, but I'm excited to see where the story goes from here, and I'm excited to see how Wax's story plays out. But yeah, I'm gonna keep reading and then I'll give y'all some more updates as I go. Something in this book that I think is so cool is that a lot of the parts of the city are named after characters from the first series, which is like so cool and also makes me really sad at the same time because I miss that series so much. That trilogy was just unbelievably good, but I love that. We've also learned that Wax has left the Ruffs and has moved back to the city of Ellendale, answering the desperate summons to do his duty to his house at his uncle's passing. Basically, his uncle has pretty much destroyed his family's reputation and he is back to sort of rebuild it. He also is expected to remarry to help with this rebuilding of his family's reputation, which sucks because he's still suffering from PTSD from what happened with Leslie, and it's making me kind of sad, but I can definitely tell that he doesn't really fit into this life, so I have a feeling he's not going to be here long, but we'll see. Okay, just finished chapter 1, so I'm on page 28 currently. In chapter 1, Wax is in attendance at a party in Ellendale, but eventually he makes his way to the balcony to be alone and decides to slip off the balcony into the mists and using his abilities to just have a little bit of fun. Eventually he comes across a band of criminals and then he hears a woman whimpering, which takes him back to Leslie's death. He narrowly avoids taking a bullet due to his abilities, but because of this he learns that he's really not over Leslie's death. Ashamed, he returns to the mansion and gives his mist cloak and some of his guns to his personal servant to be stored in a safe place, and he decides that his old life is just not meant for him and he's really going to embrace the life of the head of his house. We also find out in chapter 1 that he has a Furukami ability. If y'all don't remember, that's another one of the magic systems in the Mistborn series. Basically, he can store some of his weight in his metal mines and use it later to either make himself heavier or lighter. But yeah, so that was never really a thing in the first Mistborn series. It was either you were an allomancer or a Furukamist, but the two weren't often combined. But yeah, that's what happened in chapter 1. I will continue to read and let y'all know what happens in chapter 2 once I finish. I'm really enjoying it so far. Hello everyone, I am back. It's been a hot minute since I have revisited this video. Also been a really hot minute since I have read at all. This is like a trend for me. This week I had another test, so I essentially studied every single day this week, did not pick up the book, nothing. So it's been like an entire week since I have filmed any part of this video, so sorry. Last I left off, I was on page 32 of The Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson. So I'm gonna pick up here and we're just gonna keep reading. Wayne just showed up at Wax's mansion, and y'all know this is the Wax and Wayne series, so I'm excited to get to know Wayne. I know a little bit about him from my knowledge of the series as a whole, so I'm excited to finally meet him actually like in the book. Okay, so basically Wax left Weathering, which was in the Roughs, that's where he came from, and now he is a lord and doing his duties basically in the city of Ellendale. And he left the job of watching over Weathering to Wayne, who is now obviously no longer there. Hello everyone, brief update. I just made it to chapter 4. I pulled up a chapter by chapter summary on my phone because I don't know if y'all are like me, but when I read, I like blank out on what happened. Even though I know what happened, every time like I get in front of the camera, I blank out and I have to like remind myself of what just happened. And I also don't want to get things wrong, and I find that I say things wrong very often, so I just pulled up a chapter by chapter summary so I don't tell y'all the wrong information. In chapter 2, Wax has an appointment with Lord Harms because he is settling a marriage between him and his daughter Steris. Wax is very hesitant to appear eager because of his last wife, Lessie, so he starts talking to Miss Grimes, who basically keeps him updated on house matters, and she lets him know that a shipment of steel was stolen, and this is the second time that this has happened. Additionally, another house, Tekiel, is having very similar problems, and they have lost 5 shipments. Then Wax makes his way to the sitting room to have that meeting with Lord Harms and his daughter, and he finds Wayne, and Wayne starts trying to convince him to leave the city and go back to his old life of protecting people and not being cooped up in a house. My arm is starting to hurt, so I had to put the camera down. Anyways, then Wax attempts to usher Wayne from the room, and then Wayne puts on a disguise and proclaims to be Wax's uncle. Lord Harms is completely fooled and introduces himself and his daughter, as well as her cousin, Lady Marisai. I don't really know how to say her name, but I really like her so far. Then Wayne and Lord Harms have some small talk when Steris aims to get to the actual point of the conversation. She's very abrupt and very outspoken. I don't really know how I feel about her, but she's just very set in her own ways, if that makes sense. Then Steris presents Wax with an agreement. It's like basically a contract for their marriage, and she describes that it is to benefit both of their houses. As for Wax, his house is failing financially, so she is to help him with that basically and supply funds. And then Steris's house is a lesser known house and could basically benefit from House Ladrian's notoriety. Then during the meeting, Wayne erects a speed bubble and hands Wax a bullet that Wax later discovers is made from aluminum. Y'all, my arm is actually like aching. I'm gonna move over here really quick. Wayne leaves and Wax tries to distract himself by researching into these robberies, which are performed by the Vanishers. Then his butler comes into his study and basically tells him that he needs to be more focused on being a lord and to stop looking into these robberies. I'm on chapter 4 now. I'm gonna keep reading and then I'll keep y'all updated, and yeah. Hello everyone, I just made it to page 80. I feel like I'm reading through this so quickly. I'm really enjoying this book. I love just the language that Brandon Sanderson uses. All of the references have been so fun to see too from the original series, and I'm really just eating it up. So I just finished chapter 4, and basically what happens is Wax and Steris and Lord Harms and then also Marisai are at a wedding dinner for another house. They're talking about politics and the people in attendance, and Steris is really showing her true colors, and she's very stuck up to me, but not because she's mean or a bad person, just because that's just how she is, and she's so set in her ways and so stubborn, and she really is just playing into the societal rules, I guess, and Wax is the exact opposite. So I don't see how this marriage is going to work out at all, and I quite frankly don't like her all that much, but not because she's a bad person. Then Wayne shows up disguised as their waiter, and he's basically attempting to communicate with Wax in private. Then Marisai actually recognizes Wayne, which I think is so funny, and I really like her so far, and they all start to banter, get to know each other and things like that. We're learning more about Marisai and her personality and her humor and just how smart she is. I really like her. And then the doors swing open, and I have a feeling a lot is gonna happen in the next chapter. So I love this book. I love Marisai. She's like one of my most favorite characters so far. I think she's so funny, so cool, so smart, and just so different. And Steris is really annoying, but again, I don't feel like it's her fault. I'm excited for being able to see Wax and Wayne in action. Hey y'all, this is me editing. Please ignore the next several clips. I have residue on my lips from like a lip gloss or something, and it's really horrible, so. But I'm not gonna delete these clips because that just would not be worth it, so. Y'all, I just finished chapter 5 and that was actually crazy. Like, I was literally kicking my feet, like screaming in my head, like actually losing my mind. That was so cool. Seeing Wax and Wayne like fight together was the coolest thing of my life. That was so cool. Like, I'm actually obsessed with them. They're dynamic, everything about them. I think they're like actually so insanely cool. Marisai and Wax, I like them for each other. I know it hasn't been very long since Wax lost his last wife, but I really do like Marisai and I feel like they're so similar, and I really like them together. So anyways, a chapter 5 recap. So last I told you guys they were in the dining room of the wedding dinner and the doors explode open and the Vanishers come flooding in and basically are there to rob them. And Wax thinks that this is a way for them to cover up trying to look for hostages of possible allomancers. Then Steris is the first hostage to be picked at random, and the bandit leader then declares that they're going to take another hostage as well, and that ends up being Marisai. Suddenly the bandit leader shoots somebody and starts absolute chaos. Wayne erects a speed bubble and Wax finally gives in to his inner instincts. A lot's going on. I find it very entertaining. I really like the guns in this era and just how it's more modern. I really liked the original series, don't get me wrong, and I love how all of the abilities were just so fascinating and we got to learn so much about every single one of them, and that's how they fought, and that was the normal, which I think is so cool. But it is really cool to see this world so much more modernized compared to the original series, so I'm really enjoying it. I'm on chapter 6, so I'm gonna keep going. I'm on page 94. This is a really random comment, but normally when a battle scene like lasts for like 5 pages, I don't really like it because I feel like it just keeps going and then it gets boring and then it's just repetitive and things like that. But every single detail of this scene is so thorough. All of the physics of what's going on, everything like that is just so unbelievably well done. Like, you can tell that Brandon Sanderson really just put so much work into his writing and so much research into physics and how the world works and how just his magic system works. I don't feel like in other books I read scenes like the scenes I read in his books, and just all the religions in his books and things like that, and like the way people think and talk and act, it's just so thought out. Like, this is such a real world, like it's so real. Okay y'all, I just finished the first part of the book and I am currently on page 113, so part 2, yay, very exciting. That last chapter was like literally crazy. So that was chapter 6. Basically it starts out when Wayne's speed bubble drops and Wax immediately kills 2 of the bandits. Then basically the entire chapter is just Wax showing off his expertise in battle. You would have to read it to understand. It's not really something I can describe. Then he comes to a realization on the identity of the Vanishers leader. He thinks that it is someone that he has known in the past named Miles. Then Wax goes after Tarson, which is like one of like the lower higher ups in the bandit group, and he is trying to rescue Marisai because Tarson basically has her in his clutches. Then Wax and Wayne basically dispatch the rest of the bandits. Marisai actually ends up killing one of them. However, the leader does end up escaping with Steris. Then Wayne steals one of the aluminum guns from the bandits, which is really awesome because they are so expensive and so rare. So that's basically what happened. We are now on to part 2 in the book. We're just gonna keep going. Hello everyone, it is a few days later. Last time I checked in with you guys, I was on chapter 7. Today we're just gonna keep going, keep reading. I I really like the dynamic between Wax and Marasai. She really looks up to him as such a leader, and he is someone that she has always studied and always been so fascinated by, basically like a personal hero to her. And it's so funny because she's actually hanging out with him in person and realizing that he's not the stoic man that she thought he was, and that there could be something between them, which I can't tell if it's like a crush that you would have on like a member of a boy band when you were little, like having a crush on Harry Styles, or if it's like a crush like she actually really likes him. Brief update, I'm now on page 156 and I'm on chapter 10. I just read through chapter 7, 8, and 9. Y'all, this book is so easy to get through. It's like, it feels so fast paced but so detailed. Anyways, brief update, Marasai actually went to the Ladrian mansion to go see Wax, and he was trying to figure out what kind of alloy was used in the aluminum gun that Wayne picked up for him. Then Marasai and Wax spend some time together trying to figure out the motives of the Vanishers and come to some very good conclusions. They think that the women that are the hostages are being taken to actually breed an army of allomancers because they have such direct ties to the Lord Mistborn. Then Wax's butler comes in and drops off some tea, and Wayne discovers that the tea has been poisoned. His butler tries to assassinate Wax with a gun, but Wax ends up injuring him instead, and his butler triggers a bomb that he brought in the basket with him. They actually end up surviving. That's essentially what has happened. It was very crazy. I was shocked to know that the butler was against them this entire time, but I honestly kind of expected it just because he was so adamant in making Wax stop investigating the whole situation with the Vanishers, so I had a feeling there was something going on, but I didn't expect him to try to assassinate Wax 3 different times. That was insane. So I still can't get over Marasai and just how like adventurous she is. She has such an adventurous spirit, and this whole situation definitely scared her, but she wasn't as scared as I thought she would be, and I really respect her as a character. I think she's so cool. So they just mentioned a place called the Field of Rebirth, and if you read the Mistborn series, that's basically like the first patch of grass that ever existed after Scadrial was just covered in ash, and that's making me kind of emotional because I specifically remember that scene in the grass growing up out of nowhere, and all of the main characters seeing grass for the first time was crazy. And now that field specifically has a name, and it's called the Field of Rebirth, which I think is so cool. There's also statues of the last Emperor and the Ascendant Warrior, which were our main characters in the last series. Y'all, have literally just been sitting here so locked in. I'm now on chapter 12, so page 182. We are getting through this book so quickly. Like, I feel like I'm reading like so fast. I'm just so in love with this story. I just can't get over this story. I like don't want it to end. And Wax and Wayne are just they're so good together. Anyways, Wax, Wayne, and Marasai end up sneaking out of the mansion and then take a carriage ride to the 5th Octant where they find the Vanishers' hideout. Wax searches the building for traps, and then Wayne and Marasai go explore the upstairs. Marasai discovers that Wayne and Wax actually met because Wayne was basically a robber and got into some really bad business, and then they became a little dynamic duo. So I think it's so cool to have one of them have like a criminal backstory. I don't know, I just wasn't really expecting that, and I really liked that. So basically chapter 10 ended with them just finding some clues and things like that, but chapter 11 opens with Miles, who, if y'all remember, was at the original attack at the wedding dinner, and we discover more about him and his big role in this whole Vanishers operation, and we kind of find out more about Miles' intentions. He personally thinks that he is still a lawkeeper, but in a different way. He personally believes that in order to make a difference in the Roughs, he has to change a lot in the city, because the people who are carrying out all of the crime in the Roughs actually come from the city. So we kind of learn more about why he switched sides and is doing what he's doing now. Then we kind of find out more about Mr. Sue and his role in funding this whole operation. Then it is revealed that Marasai is an allomancer. She just has the complete opposite ability of Wayne, and we discover that she is a pulser. I definitely didn't see that coming, but I'm very excited to find that out, and honestly it just makes me like her more. So I'm really not a big fan of Miles, but I am really excited to see his role in the story and I guess how it plays out, because he's such a big character now. I'm a little bit scared to see where this goes. So Okay everyone, we have officially made it to chapter 14. I'm gonna give y'all a super quick little recap. They took a train to the outer estates, and now they are back on the train when suddenly there is a scream. A bullet tears into the carriage. Wax looks up and sees Miles in the next train car, and then in chapter 13, Wax and Miles face off, and Wax eventually throws Miles off the train to avoid having to fight to the death, because Wax basically knows that he wouldn't win without proper preparation. Wax is very wounded, and Marisai basically is tending to his wounds and really realizing that she really likes him, which is so sweet to me, and I'm really hoping this works out, but I have a feeling it won't, just because of Wax's past experience with his last wife. And then after all of this chaos, they decide that they need a safe house, so they go to their friend Renette's. So yeah, now in chapter 14, we are going to meet Renette, who has been mentioned in previous chapters. I just didn't really know who that was, so I'm excited to meet her, but that's pretty much all that happened. Things are getting very intense with Wax and Miles, and I have a feeling the final battle is going to go down very soon, but we're on 207, so let's just keep going. Y'all, Renette is so scary. First off, she opened the door with a shotgun, and they had to basically bribe her to let them in, and Wayne gave her their aluminum gun. So she's really scary, but I have a feeling she's got a soft spot, and I think I'm gonna like her. But I guess she has like a sort of thing for guns, because that's the only way that they could bribe her. But y'all, she's pretty scary. Okay, y'all, I really got into the flow of reading, and so now I'm on chapter 17. But basically, once they convince Renette to let them in with the bribe, she shows them all of the different types of ammunition she's been working on called haze killers, and they're basically designed to specifically kill allomancers. Then Renette gives Wax her latest prototype gun called the Vindication after the Ascendant Warrior. Then in chapter 15, we kind of figure out what Mr. Suit is a part of, and that is an organization called SET. We also find out that Mr. Suit wants Wax dead. Then on Wax's side of things, he has figured out where Miles has plotted to strike next, and because Miles needs a new shipment of aluminum since the whole wedding party thing, Wax deduces that he will try to steal the next Tekiel shipment at Carlo's Bend. Then in chapter 16, a lot goes down, but basically ends with Wax being inside of the shipment of aluminum from House Tekiel, and basically his goal is that when Miles steals this shipment, he will be right in the scene of action and then can directly fight Miles and hopefully win. So yeah. Hello, I am back. I'm currently on chapter 19. I'm getting really close to finishing this book. I'm on page 274, so we are trucking through. I had to pull up the chapter by chapter summary again. Basically, in the last chapter, Wax got in the shipment of aluminum that the House Tekiel was shipping. Then it goes back to the workshop where Miles orders his men to open fire on the person inside the moment they get it open. And then as Miles and his crew waits, he notices a length of string extending from the train car to the door they just pulled off, ending at some dynamite taped to the back of it. In chapter 18, following the blast, Wax emerges from the break knot and sees Miles, and a majority of this chapter is basically just a fight. Also in this chapter, Wax has a conversation with Harmony, which is like a greater god in this world, who tells him that he did do something about the Vanisher's situation. He had sent Wax. He also suggests that he has helped Wax, and then he notices his own trunk, the one that his butler had stored his guns in, right in front of him. So he basically gets his mist cloak back as well as his guns and all of his favorite weapons. So now we're on chapter 19. There's only 20 chapters and then an epilogue, so we're almost done. I think I'm gonna go ahead and finish the book really quick, and then I will get back with you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, we have officially finished The Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson. Yay! That was like a complete whirlwind of emotions. That was a lot to handle at the end. There was a lot of things that we learned, a lot of things that I really wasn't expecting that just kind of like came out of nowhere but made so much sense and really just made me think. And I feel like Brandon Sanderson always does that to me. He just makes me think. I love that about him so much. I just love this series so much. Wow. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. When I finished the first Mistborn series, I had solace in knowing that there was like a second half to the series, but once I finish this, there's gonna be nothing left for me. Except for Stormlight Archive. Still, there's something about the Mistborn series and the magic system and everything about it that just like brings me so much joy. Anyways, final recap of the last chapters. Y'all already know I gotta use this because it was a lot. Tarson takes Marasai hostage and Wax shouts for one of Wayne's speed bubbles, and this was like the most intense moment ever because it was just like what happened to Lessie, Wax's past wife. Anyways, he shoots a bullet which is deflected when it exits the bubble, and then studying its trajectory, he fires a second bullet just as Wayne drops the bubble and deflects the first one, once again nailing Tarson right in the head and saving Marasai, which was crazy. Then Wayne injures Miles long enough to escape. Miles beats Wax up, and Max endures it in order to keep Miles occupied while Marasai is burning cadmium, and the world outside Marasai's bubble is greatly accelerated, giving Wayne enough time to go get all of the constables in the city, and they arrive just as Miles notices the slowness bubble and they arrest him. And then finally in the epilogue, we are suddenly watching Miles's trial, and then he is executed. Then Wax meets with his uncle, who we thought was dead but is actually alive. Wax has figured out that he was Mr. Suit. His uncle does not reveal his plans or the locations of the other kidnapped women, but he thanks Wax for helping his plan by defeating Miles. So basically this entire book was a part of a greater plan that Mr. Suit was planning, and the execution of Miles was a part of the plan, which is unfortunate. Wax finally realizes that his uncle has committed insurance fraud by buying out House Tekiel's debts, knowing that the stolen goods would be returned. Finally, Marasai observes a man in a cloak enter an alley below and follows him. She meets Iron Eyes, who was a character from the original Mistborn series, if y'all remember, and everyone in the current world sees him as death and are basically all terrified of him, but he apologizes for pulling on her emotions and gives her a book for Wax. He also mentions Breeze, who was a character in the first Mistborn series, which made me so sad, but turns out Iron Eyes is not as bad as we think. He's just scary looking. Wayne agrees to help Wax resolve the mess with his uncle, and then Wax shows him his uncle's appointment book, which he stole before getting thrown off of the train, and that ends the book. So that was so much information we learned. I feel like my brain's about to explode with secrets, with all of that. That was the end of The Alloy of Law, y'all. That book was so good. That was a 5-star for me. I mean, every Brandon Sanderson book I've ever read in my life has been a 5-star, so he's done it again. That brought me so much joy. Arguably, I like their dynamic more than I liked Vin and Ellen's dynamic from the first series, so I just think they're so funny, so goofy, and Wayne is just so, like, unique. His jokes are funny, everything he says, like, literally cracks me up. I love them together, and I love how sarcastic they are together and how much they tease and poke and prod on each other. I love that. It reminds me of me and, like, my brother, or, like, just, like, a sibling relationship. I just love how they are so close and so just knit together. I really enjoyed that book so much. That literally brought me so much joy. I need the second book like right now. That was so good, but I love reading Brandon Sanderson books with you guys. It's been so much fun. I want to read so many more. I'm getting that second Stormlight Archive book in very soon, so I will start that and make a video on it, of course. But thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for sticking around for the end of this video if you have. I just love to read with y'all. I think it's so fun. Please comment down below any thoughts, comments, questions, anything you want to see me do, any books you want me to read. I tried to basically give y'all the entirety of the book in this video and kind of my reactions to everything. I know a lot of the time I was just giving you guys summaries, but a lot of people requested that in the last several videos, so that's what I've been trying to do. But if y'all don't like that, I can do something different. Just let me know. I will see y'all in the next video. I love you guys so much, and yeah, bye.